Hello, my name is Hyun Lee, and this is my presentation on biodiversity on amphibians and reptiles. Reptiles and amphibians have been in a dramatically dangerous downward spiral in biodiversity and numbers. Since the advent of climate change, the most susceptible type of animals have been the ones most sensitive to changes in temperature and environment and have been negatively affected in completely drastic and harmful ways. As of currently, about 20% of all reptiles are under the threat of extinction, and 41% of amphibians are under the same threat of extinction. As humans continue to affect the climate negatively, the danger of biodiversity disappearing and potential ecological collapses continues to rise. With how vulnerable reptiles and amphibians have been to the greater effects of climate change, the focus on this presentation Oh, sorry. The focus on protecting these creatures from potential extinctions is more important and vital than ever before. Protected areas, in fact, encompasses over 91% of all reptiles and amphibian species range. And even with that much protection, it is still estimated that over 800 species of reptiles and amphibians will go extinct in the near future. Public perception of such animals also remains to further detract from reptiles and amphibians as multiple cultures continue to overhunt certain reptiles for support when they are currently endangered. It is in these extreme situations that this presentation shall focus on the causes of such drastic endangerment of biodiversity and further expand the multitude of dangers created and continued by humans and, at the end, introduce potential options in helping to protect the species and the reasons why we should. The global assessment of biodiversity within amphibians, published in an article by Nature, pushes forward that the severity of biodiversity loss among amphibians, with approximately 40% of amphibians being classified as threatened, the study highlights habitat destruction, agricultural expansion, invasive species, logging, and infrastructure development as the main dominant drivers of biodiversity decline within amphibians. Emerging infectious diseases, particularly chytridiomycosis, also plays a major role in declining biodiversity. These disease outbreaks aren't just natural as well. The same reading indicates that climate change and habitat degradation are massively increasing the rate at which this disease spreads. The climate change, shifting both temperature and perception, has also affected amphibians' breeding cycles and reduced the amount of suitable habitats for them to live within. Compounded once again with how narrow the options are for livable spaces, amphibians aren't looking so well. Amphibians themselves are also known as ecological indicators due to their highly permeable skin and high sensitivity to environmental contaminants. As ecological indicators, the rapid decline within the biodiversity of amphibians clearly signals a larger environmental instability within the ecosystems they inhabit across the world. Dangerous uses of pesticides within the countries also continue to negatively affect amphibians throughout the world. An example of negative pesticides being used is atrazine, which has continued to be used on about half of America's corn crops each year, while being banned in almost every other first world country. Actually, it's every first world country. Atrazine is a known endocrine disruptor and negatively affects both amphibians and humans' hormonal processes and fertility. Reptile biodiversity has also been drastically declining, with the recent global analysis estimating that roughly 21% of reptile species are at risk of extinction. The threat highlighted within the global analysis vary geographically, but commonly include agricultural expansion, logging, urbanization, pollution, invasive species, and climate change. Similarly to amphibians, reptiles are also physiologically more susceptible to the effects of environmental changes. Having an ectothermic physiology, or being cold blooded, makes reptiles entirely reliant on the outside temperature to manage their body temperatures. Temperature changes also influence the reproductive timing, and with some species of reptiles that have temperature dependent sex determination, it can also skew sex ratios among the reptile population. Turtles, especially, are at risk of disadvantageous sex ratios due to a large portion of turtles being sex determinate based on temperature. Surprisingly, according to a developmental biology textbook, all species of crocodilians are also determined by the environment after fertilization. Culturally, reptiles are also seen as pests or villains in nature, with people hunting reptiles with already declining population rates. An example of reptile huntings are the rattlesnake roundups, in which hunters compete to collect and later kill as many snakes as they can in a year. According to the Center of Biological Diversity, eastern diamondback rattlesnakes are currently facing population declines due to these rattlesnake roundups. As of today, rattlesnake roundups oh, continue on and have happened in March previously this month in both Oklahoma and Texas. Thankfully, both of these events have moved on to no-kill events with conservation and education components, though it seems likely that some of the reptiles will still be sold for meat and skin. While climate change is projected to alter every species' biodiversity, there is a disproportionate amount of biodiversity loss among reptiles and amphibians. As of a study in 2023, it was indicated that while the protected areas of 2023 did encompass substantial portions of species ranges, future climate-driven shifts will likely move suitable habitats beyond protected areas. A study by Farrak et al. 2024 also emphasized that due to the threats of each reptile, and can be further expanded to amphibians, being spatially heterogeneous, planned conservation must also be regionally specific instead of globally uniform. It should be noted that biodiversity loss among both reptiles and amphibians are also largely overlapping between the two. With both reptiles and amphibians being the most sensitive to climate change and pollution, it is important that they are focused on being protected immediately and that their continued biodiversity loss signifies a major environmental change. So why should we protect amphibians and reptiles, and why is this important to us currently? Well, first of all, a lot of our medicine, in fact, comes from amphibians. With the declining amphibian birth rates and declining population, there's chances of us not losing the cures to diseases we've never even discovered yet. There are also huge parts of their ecosystems, and their continued loss will signifies as a huge disruption into their ecosystems. So here is my works cited. I had to separate it into 2 pages because it's a bit. And thank you.